There are so many cameras to choose from in 2023, and it definitely can be an overwhelming process to choose a camera that meets all your needs as a filmmaker. But let's be real, most importantly, your budget as well. But that's why we're gonna go through every camera at every budget and talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. Before we jump into all of these cameras, I just want to let you guys know that we are in the final week to enter into our giveaway. We are giving away a filmmaking package to one lucky winner, and all you have to do is like and subscribe to the channel, drop in the comments down below, ballin' on a budget, and you will be eligible to win this giveaway. The first camera that everybody should always consider investing in is their phone. Believe it or not, most modern phones are better than any camera in the $500 price range. So if that is your budget, I would definitely look into maybe getting a mic attachment and maybe some lenses and ND filters for your phone to enhance the quality, because I have seen some really great footage being shot on a phone with, anamorphic lenses and ND filters. If you do have an iPhone, and if you are in the market and your budget is only, $300 to $500, I would definitely just consider souping up your phone and getting all the accessories that you can to really enhance that. And I'll drop some links down below that I find that are some really great things that you could do and add to your phone to make your iPhone filmmaking more cinematic. Now, the first video camera that we're going to talk about today is the Sony ZV-E10, which in my opinion is a great low budget option. This camera shoots 4K up to 30 frames per second. It has great autofocus, a mic input, and it has a flip screen. The negative is that it has a really bad rolling shutter. It shoots at only 8-bit, and it only has 10 stops of dynamic range. And while this camera does have in-body stabilization, if you want to use that feature, it will crop your video unless you're using the kit lens that it comes with. So that's definitely something that you should consider. I would consider this camera if you're a beginner and you're strictly uploading content to social media. This is a great camera for vlogging or content creators that need a lightweight camera that can just get the job done. And at a price tag of $698, I think it's the best low budget option on the market right now. Now, we are gonna hike up the price a little bit, and we're gonna go ahead and double that budget. And if you could afford something around the $1,400 range, there is a great camera with a ton of really awesome features, and that is the Lumix GH5. Now, the pros about this camera is that it can shoot 4K at 60 frames per second. It has dual image stabilization with in-body and lens stabilization. It has 12 stops of dynamic range, and it shoots in a flat profile, and the camera itself is a strong, durable body. In my opinion, it's a great camera for professional videographers who want the ability to make high quality content. I've seen some really great footage shot on this camera, and I think for a $1,400 price tag, there's not too many cameras on the market that can beat this camera. That's just my opinion. If you guys think that there is a camera out there at this price point that can beat this camera, please drop them in the comments down below. Now, for just a few $100 more, you have one of my favorite cameras that I have ever used, which is the 6K Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. This camera shoots 6K up to 50 frames per second. It has a Super 35 sensor, 13 stops of dynamic range, and it has dual native ISO of 400 and 3200. And let me just say, as a Blackmagic user and as someone who's used this camera for years, I absolutely love this camera, and I don't think that there's any camera on the market for $2,000 that can outperform the image quality that you can get out of this camera. For me, it was everything that I needed. The ability to shoot 6K at 50 frames. It supplies phantom power to your microphone. It just gives you a beautiful image at such an affordable price. When Blackmagic came out with this camera, it was no wonder to me why, tons of filmmakers went out and bought this. It's a great introduction to enter into the world of cinema cameras without really breaking the bank, and want the ability to shoot cinematic footage for short films and documentaries. Trust me when I tell you guys, this is a camera that I stand behind, so if your budget is around $2,000, I would definitely consider buying this camera. Now, we're gonna venture off into the world of true cinema cameras at a much higher budget, around the $6,000 mark. And in my mind, there are 3 cameras that are all amazing in their own way, and that is the Sony FX6, the Blackmagic Ursa 12K, and the Red Komodo. Now, like I said, all 3 of these cameras in their own right are amazing, and all have their own specialty, and that's why I decided to compare these three at this price range. Starting with the FX6, this camera is a low light beast, and it outperforms almost everything in its price range at low light performance, making it a great camera option for documentary filmmaking. The FX6 also has 15 stops of dynamic range with a full frame sensor. The Blackmagic 12K is the king when it comes to resolution and frame rates at this price point, with the ability to shoot 12K up to 60 frames, 8K up to 120 frames, and 4K up to 240 frames. This camera also has a Super 35 sensor and has 14 stops of dynamic range. And I will say, as a proud owner of this camera, the image quality and skin tones that you get out of this camera are incredible. The last camera in this price range, which is a red Komodo camera that our boy Jason Momoa swears by.
It's like cinema in the palm of your hands.
Now, Red has always put out amazing image quality, and this camera is no different. With its tiny form factor and ability to shoot 6K at 50 frames per second and a global shutter, this camera is a tiny beast that is used on film sets all around the world. But the big question is, which is the right camera for you and why? And to be honest, that really depends on what kind of stuff you're shooting. If you find yourself in a lot of situations where you can't control the lighting and you don't plan on shooting anything above 4K, I would definitely go with the FX6. That's why most documentary filmmakers go with this camera, because it's on the smaller side. It has incredible range of ISO. It's great in low light performance. And when you're shooting a documentary, it's very rare that you're gonna go above 4K because there's so much footage where you're shooting where you're just rolling the camera and you need tons and tons of footage. So to shoot anything above 4K at that point for documentary, a lot of the times is overkill. Now, if you're making films and commercials or you're doing a lot of VFX work, then I would say the Ursa 12K is definitely the camera for you because of the high resolution and frame rates. This camera gives you the ability to shoot a lot of different types of content. If you're doing really slow-mo product shots, or you need massive 12K footage because you need to shoot for VFX work, then I would definitely go with this camera. In my opinion, it's the best image quality out of the three cameras. But the con is that it's a huge camera and it's not made for run and gun filming. It's not really made for even documentary filmmaking. So if you are doing commercial shoots, if you're doing a lot of VFX stuff, I think this is the perfect camera for you in this price range. Now, the Komodo is somewhere between the two cameras. Obviously, you have amazing image quality, but you have the ability to shoot 6K in a really small, tiny little body that could be great for run and gun style shooting. And not to mention that it has a global shutter at 16 stops of dynamic range, which is incredible. And I think that it's definitely a viable option and could be a great choice for a lot of different types of filmmaking. Now, in my experience with the Komodo, I didn't love the interface. And I also thought that it was a little inconsistent in its performance. So that's why I didn't go with it on, for my documentary filmmaking. And I went with the Ursa 12K. And to be honest with you, I feel like it's the best option for the image quality. And I was shooting commercials at the time and I was shooting corporate stuff that needed a lot of different slow motion. But truth be told, the best option for documentary filmmaking is probably the FX6. It really depends on what you're doing. If you're not really sure what you're gonna do, and you need something to be kind of flexible, and you're a one-man band, I would go with the Komodo. If you know you're gonna be on a lot of bigger sets and you have kind of a crew that you're working with, then I think the Ursa 12K is by far the more superior option when it comes to image quality and it comes to frame rates and resolution. And then if you're doing a lot of documentary work or you're doing a lot of work where you're using a lot of natural light, then I would go with the FX6. But to be honest, I think that you really have to look at all the specs between these three cameras and figure out what you like to do and what situations that you're in more often than not. And I think it's just about trading off what specs and what things are good for you. But all three of these cameras, to me, are the best three cameras in this price range. Again, if you guys have any argument with that, please drop them in the comments down below. And let me know what camera you think outperforms any one of these cameras at the $6,000 price range. The last camera on this list that I think stands out to me above all the cameras on this list is the FX9. At a $10,000 price tag, the FX9 is a 6K full frame sensor with incredible autofocus, dual native ISO of 800 and 4000, and it has 15 stops of dynamic range. Pretty much this camera can do it all. The image quality in this camera is superb, and I tried my best to really find a flaw that would make you not want to buy this camera, but I really couldn't. And for $10,000, I think it is for sure the best camera in that price range, one that I have definitely had my eye on for a couple years now. It's got incredible low light performance and a high dynamic range. But again, if you guys know of a camera that can beat this camera in the $10,000 price range, please let me know in the comments down below. I welcome all answers. That is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and I'll check you guys out in the next one. Deuces.